Good afternoon. My name is Joe Bandel, and I am the last Rosicrucian. Now, my last my last video, I kind of talked about uh, the idea of narrative, why narrative is so important, and it really kind of bothered me because the topic was so difficult that I had trouble with it. As a result, that's why I started reading that little booklet written by H. Spencer Lewis that I also posted excerpts from, which was called Mental Poisoning. And that's going to be the title of this video, Mental Poisoning, because it's still, there was difficulties that I had, and this is kind of hard, it's hard to really describe, but for the last few months, I've kind of like come up against a wall in which what should I be doing? What should I continue translating these stories? I have not I've not posted a short story on my podcast for 2 weeks now. I need to decide, am I going to go forward with that or am I not going to go forward with that? And the whole also working on my novel, a trilogy novel that I have the first one done, but I wanted to go to the second continue the story to finish it. And something was preventing me from doing it. And it's like, what's stopping me? What's going on? And a lot of this dealt with, well, okay, my stories with the podcasts, a lot of them have kind of a dark Edgar Allan Poe type of energy that I've always really loved. It's kind of like, oh, this is creepy, but I kind of like it type of thing. Uh, and on the other hand, the the writing of the story that I was going to do was really going to have a lot of dark areas, if you will, occult type stuff happening, things like that, whatever. And actually, if I go back, I can go back to the fall equinox, I think it was, when it's like I have been going back over my Rosicrucian material, Rosicrucian Order A mark. Um, for review, I just say, just to remind people, I joined the Rosicrucian Order A mark back in 1976 when I was 19. And I had weekly monographs for over 22 years that I studied. And what happened was, well, an AMARC is a spiritual philosophical organization, and what they do is their whole purpose, their whole reason for existence in a way is to help people to cross the great abyss and to attain to cosmic consciousness if it's possible for them. So that's the goal that they have. And it was life saving for me because during a time of my life when I was really cracking and I was like nervous breakdown type stuff, the studies themselves actually created a secondary personality that was stable enough to get me through. Even though I was very head based, I was very head trippy. In other words, I basically shut down my emotions because I had traumatic things happen to me when I was 18, 19 years old. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to go over to this other thing. And for, let's say, 20 some years, whatever, the next, I was, every day was, I do my Rosicrucian studies. I study any reading material that was dealing with self-help, assertiveness training, uh, spirituality, metaphysical things, but I would not touch magic. I would not go into that area. I was purely into a spiritual, mystical phrase or a state of openness to. And literally every night I would pray. I would pray and I would meditate. And what finally happened was in 1991, I actually crossed the great abyss in full consciousness and, and was able to stay there. What happens is you go there and you get it a little bit, and you can stay a while, and you can stay a little longer, and you can stay a little longer, and then you reach a point where you can actually permanently cross that great abyss. And have that experience, which I had back in 1981, which brought its own problems and issues, but more to the point, it caused it. We would say that up to that point, my whole life from being 19 up to that point in 1991, I really was polarized. My soul was polarized. My whole desire, my whole being was, I want to go into the light. I want to get out of here. I don't like this place. And so it was polarized in a spiritual way. After a certain amount of time of having crossed the great abyss and trying to lose myself in that ocean of light, if you will, I realized that you can't really do that. Because no matter how hard I try, it just kind of pushed me back. Kind of like a balloon, trying to push a balloon under the water. You could go under the water, but there's always that thing that would bring it back. And it was really traumatic, but what actually happened was I had a polarity shift, and my soul was now aimed toward the earth. And all these things that were going around inside my head, that these insights, these illuminations and stuff, were going gradually down into the mental realms instead of the intuitive realms. And I started writing them down. And that process and the activity went down further and it went down further, and it started getting into the emotional stuff. And that's when it was really getting uncomfortable, because it was triggering emotional healing. It was bringing up this emotional stuff so that I could heal from it. And I reached a point where it's like, I need to get back to earth. I need to get back down, because I was way too out in outer space. And so I figured, okay, if I got to get back to earth, I want to try to get back to earth, and applied myself to that. And it was that trying to get back down to earth, trying to deal with these emotional wounds, repressed stuff, uh, the transmuting of the black shit, if you will, the transmutation of the black, dark, negative energies into harmless or even positive energies, that alchemy that I became very good at. But what happened was the Rosicrucian order doesn't go there. They don't do that. They don't have anything to do with the process of going back down and working with this emotional or mental turmoil. Um, their stated goal, and they're good at what they do, is get you up there and cross the great abyss. You're one with the cosmic. You're one with the whatever you want to call it, source. But I was getting, and so I had done that, but there's that polarity shift, and now I was coming down and I was dealing with all this emotional stuff, and it was so powerful because I didn't realize it, but I still had my connection to source, and I was in the process of bringing that light of source down to earth to help anchor earth, to help anchor Gaia in her ascension process, even though back then we didn't even know that much about what was doing that. It was all kind of subconscious, if you will, on my part. Part of my maybe part of my soul knew what I was doing, but I didn't know. I was just trying to heal. And a very serious conflict arose, if you will, because the Rosicrucian order teachings, which were mystical, going up, were not supportive of the path that I was now taking, which was digging into the crap. And it deals very much with this concept of that book of mental poisoning that I took the excerpts from H. Spencer Lewis. And so what happened was, after 22 years, I dropped my active Rosicrucian membership, and then later, in these later years, I reestablished it. So I'm still a high level member Rosicrucian that studied the 22 years worth of material, but I'm going back. Something was saying, oh, hey, you go back and you're going to repeat. Sometimes everything's in layers, and maybe you can get more out of it this time. So I was in the process of going back, and I was rereading some of those early monographs. And really, my soul is kind of like saying, okay, yeah, this is something that's good to do. In the meantime, I'd been doing my meditations that I share with you guys, which was also kind of stirring things up. So it was a very powerful time, I guess. But anyway, I was doing kind of a self initiation that came from one of these monographs, and it had me put my hand on my heart and say a phrase or two or whatever, and suddenly my whole heart chakra started glowing, and it was like it plugged into an electric circuit, and you could feel the energy just kind of, and then after a little bit, it went up into the throat. And again, that definite active, you're not going to, it's not right to say activation because that's too mild a word. This is like, boom, it really started up. And then it went up into my brain, the whole inside of my brain is like, whoa, feeling all that up and then up the crown chakra area. So that particular review and that self initiation, even though it was from over 40 years ago, it really triggered something. And it triggered something between me and the egregore of the Rosicrucian Order, Amor, that was incredibly powerful because it just lit up like flashbulbs. And I was like, whoa, this is okay. This is really something. So it caught my attention big time, and I said, this really means I should be looking at getting a lot reconnecting and becoming so much closer to the Rosicrucians than I had been before, because my oak material was the path that it was like a similar, it's a parallel path, but the Amorc path, the studies were mystical, and oak, generally speaking, is more of a magical path. It's earth based. A lot of it's based upon, you could say, tantric philosophies, things like that. And a lot of it is based upon rupturing the astral planes, which means healing, he, having having certain parts of that trauma and that dark stuff, that negative, trapped, repressed emotional energy or mental energy or whatever, uh, breaking loose so that you can get rid of it. So it's two different animals, basically. And so, on the one hand, my meditations were really kind of helping me cleanse the shadow self, if you will, work, purge a lot of that stuff. But now I'm getting this new influx of energy from the Rosicrucian Order, and I was like, is this another polarity shift? No, and it definitely felt that way. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Um, what should I do? Should I be putting out these dark stories? Should I be writing a novel that's got kind of a dark flavor for the occult world, even though it's a positive thing, something like that? And so I was kind of like locked in a place where I didn't know which way to turn. I didn't know what was going on, what was right, what I should do, because that those excerpts from that book, Mental Poisoning, written by H. Spencer Lewis, they helped me to resolve that. It helped me to kind of put things into place. And also it helped me to remember some of the things, some from the monographs that I had read so long ago. Um, the Rosicrucian Order, Amark, comes out and says, and it comes out and says this, so I'm not making things up about it. It says its purpose is to help attain to cosmic consciousness or cosmic awareness and connect to source. But it says also it works only works on the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye chakra, the crown chakra. It only works on the four higher chakras. It does not it does not work on the lower three. It refuses to deal with them. Okay, now that's important because oak and where all the repressed and emotions are and a lot of the trauma stuff is all buried deep in the bottom three chakra centers. And that's part of why these stories that are kind of dark, uh, they scratch an itch because they're stirring things up in those bottom chakras. By stirring them up, then they're coming into awareness and you can experience them and hopefully deal with them and integrate them. In other words, it is a healing technique. However, the Rosicrucian studies will not go there. They will not deal with that because they do not deal with the lower three chakras. And I was like, okay, because I'm conflicted now at this point because it's like I'm drawn to the road, I'm drawn to the light, I'm drawn to the spirit. I've always been connected to the light after my experience. And it's just so drawn to that. But does that mean that it's wrong to continue with these stories, with to muck around in the dark? I guess is what I'm saying. Especially with the idea of mental poisoning, by reading a story like Edgar Allan Poe's stories or some of these stories that I translate, am I poisoning my soul? Am I poisoning my mind by uh, well, basically that. Am I poison? Am I making myself toxic because of that? And I was just about convinced that that was the case. But I really felt that I needed to meditate on this a while, let it sit for a while, and really kind of think deeply. I needed to get an answer on that because I could basically, I was buying hook, line, and sinker what it was saying in that little booklet about mental poisoning. That okay, you don't want to. You got to be careful what you put in your mind, especially the idea of suggestibility, things like that. And after really going within and really trying to connect with source myself, really trying to be open to an answer to that, I came to the conclusion that AMARC limits itself. It says we're not going below the heart chakra. And I also remembered they somewhere in their teachings they said it may very well be true that working with sexuality and tantric energies may contribute to well-being or whatever, may be a positive thing. We won't go there. And a lot of the oak stuff does go there. And so and they're talking about, okay, being afraid or something. You can see what the excerpts that I posted on that. The conclusion I came to is a lot of the hurt, a lot of the wounds are in the bottom three chakra levels. And you can't be afraid of going there. If you're afraid of, if you have an injury or you have a wound and it's infected and it's poisonous, are you just going to deny it or are you going to try to heal it? And if you want to heal it, you've got to go there where it is. So bring bring the cleanup crew to the bottom chakras is appropriate. Wallowing in the muck is not appropriate. Taking joy in a lot of icky stuff is not appropriate. But if you're coming in there to stir things up, to bring it into awareness so that you can heal from it, it's not only appropriate, it's needed, because where's this world headed? Where are we going in this world? We're heading into a world where the root chakra is going to be the dominant chakra center, the dominant energy that people are dealing with, and that is survival. There's going to be, we're going to be dealing with some ugly things, which means we're going to, a lot of us are going to be coming face to face with some ugly things, and we can't be in denial about it. We've got to be empowered about it. So the bottom line of this whole thing is, it helped me to realize, hey, not only are these tales that I'm sharing, these kind of dark stories, not only are they helpful in a healthy way for stirring things up, helping people get in touch with their deeply repressed stuff so that they can heal it, that they can get a handle on it, release some of it. It's needed. It's deeply, deeply needed. And that's why, so as soon as I get done with this video, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put out the next story on the podcast, because it's two weeks late. Okay. But it's also, when I think about, okay, I'm still reviewing the Rosicrucian monographs, the studies, and going in there, because there's some brilliant, very spiritual material there. And my membership is, I'm going to remain one of the elders. I am part of the Rosicrucians. I am a Rosicrucian. But I also believe in the importance of these other levels, the importance of the oak material, for example. So what I have determined is that there needs to be a bridge. I need to start building a bridge between the Rosicrucian material and the oak material. That's what I need to be more focused on, so that there's not a gap or a chasm between the two, because they're not really in conflict with each other. They just don't deal with the same things. So, okay, I need to start working a bridge. I already worked a bridge between the Kabbalah, the Holy Kabbalah, and the oak material. Now I need to go back, and I need to be building this bridge between the Rosicrucian material and the oak material so that the energy flows so that it allows full spectrum ascension for people that are interested in that. Anyway, I hope you found that kind of interesting. I just needed to kind of put that out there because I've been kind of stumped and holding back on some things. And I had to kind of sort it out myself for myself. This is what I decided. Thank you.